We continue with our conversation on the inauguration of the president as well as the GNU. Joining us for this is Tshepo Matseba, Reputation First MD. Good evening, Tshepo, and welcome to the Full View. So the GNU has been all the talk leading up to the inauguration and continues to be the subject of much debate beyond the inauguration today. The Rand has even reacted positively post that formation of the GNU. Your views on the GNU as a strategic branding tool to attract investment. Can it achieve this?
Yeah, firstly, we must appreciate that South Africa and South Africans are working together collectively to create an ecosystem that will work for everybody. I think that's very important. And secondly, whether we call it Government of National Unity, GNU, or a collaboration or strategic partnership, it is good for the country, because when you bring different voices in one room to shift the country forward, it's positive. We've seen that markets actually have reacted positively across the board, locally and internationally. We've also seen that some agencies, such as S&P and others, have been accused of participating in some kind of political engagement. But for us as South Africans, this is an opportunity. This is great. This is beautiful, and it shows that we have responsible leaders who are willing to talk to each other. Obviously, there is opposition.
Speaking of that opposition, because in as much as there are many voices now, and many would say it speaks of inclusivity, there's also the instability that can come with many voices, and that's the concern that some have raised. You don't believe that it could pose some sort of a risk to the program of SA being open for business?
No, actually, there are many incidents here in the Southern Hemisphere that got people excited about people disinvesting from South Africa. But I can tell you now, companies like Stellantis are reinvesting and investing more here in South Africa. Companies like VW are putting more resources here in South Africa, especially if we discuss just the motoring sector. But overall, generally speaking, South Africa is an investor-friendly destination. Whether you and I and others have different political views about the environment, it's a different story. But we have strong infrastructure, a very young population, which attracts investors because they know that they've got an investable population in young people who can work and deliver services to their clients and customers. So therefore, South Africa is an opportunity. As I say, it doesn't mean that we are looking at this and we should look at this blindly. The difficulty with this proposition is that in some parts of the world, it may seem like microscopic, where others may say work club. Where a group of people gather together and even though they hold different views, they are not willing to talk about those different views openly. But we are yet to see. For now, I think we should enjoy the moment. This is great for South Africa. It makes us look good globally.
We certainly are enjoying the stronger Rand. But now some economists have stressed that investors, if anything, would probably be comfortable with the policy continuity that comes with the GNU, not necessarily that they prefer any political party over the other insofar as the other members of the GNU, but that if you also have the ANC there, you could see a little bit more of the same kind of policies. Is this in fact the case?
No. So investors obviously want predictability in any market. They want to know that the environment is safe, that the policy direction is not going to shift fundamentally without reason. Now, when you look at the ANC brings experience and expertise. We may not necessarily, and some South Africans may not necessarily agree with some of the things that happened in whatever period, but they bring experience and expertise. And then you bring the DA with a little bit of energy. They don't have experience in running a national government in a country, but they may bring energy in fresh input. And then there are other smaller parties that are participating in the ecosystem, and together they bring a blend of fresh air. And then there's a fresh opposition of different people. And so this entire collective is going to be amazing, I believe, for South Africa. And investors can see that. By the way, investors are not, and markets are not robots, they are people. There are people who make decisions behind the scenes. They can read, they can understand, and they can listen. And they can see South Africa's value proposition and ecosystem. And this specific one, for now, is really, really good for our image and reputation. Whether individuals in certain political sectors hold a particular view is a completely different story, which all of us should embrace, because we are, after all, a democracy. But the fact remains that South Africa is progressing right now.
So you're saying the humans behind the markets prefer predictability. It's not that they want to influence political outcomes in any country. You're saying it's just about predictability.
Well, some do, of course. As I've mentioned earlier, I think there are agencies, rating agencies, that have been accused of trying to interfere in South Africa's political arena. But the fundamental fact, beyond the excitement about interfering in politics, is that South Africa's ecosystem is holding it together. The judiciary is holding it together, and the citizens are holding it together. Yes, we are going to differ, especially domestically, because a lot of noise is here at home. But where we are now, there's no more debate about who's going to govern. We know who's going to govern and who's governing. Whether who's going to get which portfolio and who's going to control what sector, completely irrelevant at this point in time. The important factor is that the country is going forward, and the investors and markets, the people behind all these, including international media that influences a lot of investor decisions, those people can see that South Africa is holding it together. And that's a fundamental difference between South Africa and many parts of the world, where you see a change in government from a strong liberation movement towards a more collective collaboration. And that's why I say collective. And I think we need to, others are already labeling this GNU as a problem. And maybe we should also debate that and say, is this a collaboration, coalition, participant? In all, it's a good partnership for our country.
All right, so you believe brand South Africa right now is looking good across many countries. Thank you very much, Tshepo Matseba, for your time. That's Tshepo Matseba, Reputation First MD.